Fireworks, VIP booths, billionaires sipping Grey Goose like it's liquid gold. For years, it was the symbol of luxury, the world's most elite vodka. But it was all a lie. Grey Goose wasn't rare, it wasn't special. It was a carefully crafted illusion, a fake luxury sold to a thirsty world. This is the story of how one man turned cheap vodka into a $2 billion myth and made us believe every drop. Before I get to the good stuff, the scandal, the illusion, the billion-dollar twist, I need to tell you about one man. You've probably never heard his name, but none of this would exist without him. His name was Sidney Frank. He created a vodka that the world would swear came from the heart of France, and yet he wasn't a distiller. He wasn't even French. He didn't even drink that much vodka himself. But he knew how to sell a fantasy. He'd already turned one obscure German liquor into an American party essential. Then he set his sights on vodka and made a move so bold it changed the liquor industry forever. Because Sidney Frank didn't just sell vodka, he sold an idea, a dream, a lie. And that lie? It was just getting started. Grey Goose wasn't born from a distillery's legacy. It wasn't crafted by master distillers or steeped in centuries of tradition. It was a product of pure marketing genius and manipulation. Sidney Frank, the mastermind behind Grey Goose, understood that vodka was a blank canvas. At the time, Absolut was the premium vodka, priced around $15 to $17 per bottle. Frank didn't aim to compete with Absolut. He aimed to redefine the category. He launched Grey Goose at an eye-popping $30 per bottle, nearly double the price of its competitors. This wasn't about quality, it was about perception. Frank knew that consumers often use price as a shortcut to judge quality, a psychological phenomenon known as the price-quality effect. But raising the price was only part of his genius. Frank exploited exclusivity by initially limiting distribution to create buzz, placing the vodka in select bars and clubs that catered to the elite. This sparked a feedback loop. The brand's popularity made it desirable, and its desirability made it popular. Sidney Frank didn't just sell vodka. He sold a carefully engineered psychological experience. He understood how our brains take mental shortcuts, like assuming higher price equals higher quality, or trusting endorsements without question. By positioning Grey Goose in exclusive social settings, he harnessed social proof, the powerful urge to emulate the in crowd. The brand's story triggered the halo effect, where luxury surroundings made the vodka itself seem superior. Scarcity and limited availability created FOMO, driving demand. Frank's genius lay in using these invisible forces, turning a simple liquor into a symbol of status and desire that felt almost irresistible. But pricing and psychology alone weren't enough. Frank needed a narrative that would elevate Grey Goose above the sea of generic vodkas. So he crafted a tale of French elegance and purity. The vodka was said to be distilled in the Picardy region of France and filtered through champagne limestone. The bottle was designed to resemble a wine bottle, complete with a cork and wooden crate packaging elements associated with French luxury. The problem? None of it was true. There was no distillery in Picardy. The vodka was actually produced in the Cognac region, known for its brandy, not vodka. To further prop up the brand's prestige, Frank submitted Grey Goose to the Beverage Testing Institute, where it was awarded a high score. He then launched an aggressive advertising campaign, touting Grey Goose as the best-tasting vodka in the world. The catch? The Beverage Testing Institute had only reviewed Grey Goose once, in 1998. Here lies both the brilliance and the controversy of Sidney Frank's legacy. His true product wasn't vodka itself, but a narrative, a carefully spun tale that transformed an ordinary liquor into a symbol of high class. This story was powerful enough to persuade consumers to spend far more for what was essentially the same vodka others sold for less. And remarkably, it worked, captivating the market and reshaping expectations. But the story doesn't go on forever. In 2006, Just 2 years after selling Grey Goose, Sidney Frank died of a heart attack at the age of 86. He didn't live long enough to see just how far the illusion he built would reach, or how deeply it would change the liquor industry. What he left behind wasn't just a fortune. It was a legacy built on image, ambition, and one very expensive lie. But don't get too comfortable, because beneath all the champagne showers and Monaco sunsets, there's a part of this story no one ever talks about, and when I come back to it, you'll understand why. Sidney Frank was living a life that seemed ripped straight from the pages of a billionaire's dream. He didn't just own things, he owned moments, expensive watches, exclusive parties, vacations on private islands, the kind of life most people only see in movies. But the truth was even stranger. He traveled in style, private jets, exotic destinations, luxury yachts, all the perks of the ultra-elite. He threw lavish parties in places like Ibiza, the kind that didn't just attract the rich, but the richest. Celebrities, athletes, power brokers, all of them there, drawn by the same thing, the name on that bottle. But what if the glittering lifestyle wasn't all it seemed? What if the truth behind the fantasy was darker than anyone could have imagined? Nobody who attended Frank's parties could have guessed what was really going on behind the scenes. But actually, you could say that he didn't really throw parties. He planned huge social events. These weren't casual cocktail gatherings or business mixers. These were events designed to make headlines and shape perception. He understood one thing better than almost anyone in business. In the world of luxury, perception is reality. In Ibiza, Saint-Tropez, and Manhattan, his parties were the stuff of legend. Velvet ropes, sweeping villas, top-shelf liquor flowing like water, and guest lists that looked like award show seating charts. Models, moguls, actors, and athletes, all there, not just for the music or the setting, but because being seen at a Sidney Frank party was a status symbol in itself. He reportedly paid top dollar for A-list DJs, private performances, and curated guest experiences. Rumors flew about champagne sprayed from balconies, Grey Goose fountains, and private security teams so elite, they made red carpet bouncers look like mall cops. These weren't just parties. They were brand-building campaigns, living advertisements for the lifestyle that Grey Goose promised. It was marketing disguised as decadence. And it worked. Because if you wanted to drink like the rich, Frank made sure you saw exactly how the rich drank. But it didn't stop there. If you saw how he traveled, you'd start to realize this wasn't just a party lifestyle. It was a power move. Jets that didn't just take off. They announced arrival. Destinations that read like a billionaire's checklist. And behind it all, a strategy that was bigger and far more calculated than anyone realized. But his travels weren't simply about simple pleasure and leisure. Every destination, every trip, was a calculated part of Sidney Frank's larger vision. We'll get to that part soon. The scandal, the illusion, the billion-dollar deception. But first, let's take a look at how Sidney Frank made the world his playground. Sidney Frank didn't just travel to nice places. He made sure everyone noticed when he arrived. He didn't just visit fancy spots like Saint-Tropez or Aspen. He acted like he owned them. Wherever he went, people saw him as rich and important. His trips weren't just for fun. They were a way to show his power and style. Every place he visited became part of his story of wealth and success. His choice of aircraft was equally telling. Flying in private jets wasn't just a convenience, it was a mobile extension of his brand. These jets, customized to reflect the quality associated with Grey Goose, became flying billboards of luxury. The interiors were carefully designed, with plush seating, state-of-the-art amenities, and a level of comfort that ensured every journey was as amazing as the destinations themselves. Each flight was an experience, reinforcing the narrative that luxury was not just a product, but a lifestyle. But Frank's travels weren't solely about personal pleasure. They were strategic, designed to align Grey Goose with the world's most exclusive locales and events. By associating the brand with high-profile destinations and gatherings, He ensured that Grey Goose was seen not just as a drink, but as a symbol of elite status. This seamless integration of product and experience blurred the lines between reality and aspiration, making the Grey Goose lifestyle something that people not only desired, but believed they could attain. Yet, beneath this glossy exterior lay a calculated strategy. Every destination, every jet, every event was part of a larger narrative that Frank was crafting, a narrative that would soon lead to a revelation that would change the way the world viewed luxury branding. But that story is for later. Sidney Frank's homes were not just places to live, they were huge signs of his success. Imagine big villas with amazing views of the Mediterranean Sea, marble floors shining under bright chandeliers, swimming pools so big they looked like small lakes, beautiful gardens with fountains showing off wealth and style. These homes were like a playground for a man who understood the power of appearances. In Palm Beach, his estate was like a castle of luxury. It was designed by a famous architect named Frank de Biasi. Inside, classic style mixed with modern touches. The gardens were large and full of life, and there were several pools spread across the property. Security was so tight it was stronger than many embassies. Privacy was very important to Sidney Frank, who lived a life on the world stage. Up in Manhattan, his penthouse stood tall above the city, offering wide views of Central Park. The inside was decorated with high-quality materials and custom furniture. This wasn't just a fancy home. It was the perfect place for big deals, exclusive parties, and powerful meetings. These homes weren't just where Frank lived. They were part of the image he carefully built. Every property Sidney Frank owned was picked to show who he was. They were reminders that he played by his own rules and lived at the very top of the world. But under all the sparkling glasses and expensive furniture, there was a secret about how this life and the $2 billion Grey Goose business was built on something less real than people thought. Soon, I'll share that hidden truth. But for now, picture yourself walking through those doors. The kind of luxury most people only see in magazines, the kind of power money can buy, and the kind of secret that can break the illusion. Sidney Frank's wealth wasn't just about private jets and huge homes. It also showed in his amazing collection of cars and yachts. These were not just vehicles. They were symbols of his status and taste. One of the coolest cars he owned was a Ford RS 200. This wasn't just any car. It was a rare rally car made back in the 1980s. Only 200 of these cars were ever built, which makes them very special. Frank's car had extra power, about 300 horsepower, and even had a fancy stereo system. After Frank passed away in 2005, this rare car was sold and now sits in a museum in Mougins, France. Because of its rarity and condition, cars like this can sell for almost £500,000 at auctions. Besides the RS 200, Frank also owned a very unique Mercedes-Benz limousine from 1995. This wasn't a regular limo. It was made just for him. It had a navy blue outside and a cream-colored inside, with lots of luxury features. Imagine watching 5 flat-screen TVs, having a place to store cigars, and knowing the whole car was armored for security. This limo could comfortably fit 6 people and was part of Frank's private car collection. But Frank's love of luxury didn't stop with cars. He also had a massive yacht called the Top 5-2. This giant boat was 61 meters long and built by the Royal Hockfort shipyard. Launched in 2021, the yacht has a strong steel hull and a shiny aluminum top. It can cruise at about 12.7 knots and travel up to 4,200 nautical miles without stopping. The yacht can host 14 guests and 19 crew members. Inside, there are fancy features like a movie theater, a huge owner's suite that takes up the full width of the boat, and even a jacuzzi on the front deck. For Sidney Frank, these cars and yachts were more than just ways to get around. They were part of his brand. Each one showed off his taste for the finest things in life. and his ability to mix quality with status. They helped tell the story of the luxurious lifestyle he wanted everyone to see. For years, Grey Goose soared. Sidney Frank's vodka wasn't just on shelves, it was on stages, in music videos, in the hands of celebrities. It became a symbol of arrival. If you were drinking Grey Goose, you had made it. But here's the twist. Grey Goose wasn't a triumph of distilling. It was a triumph of storytelling. Frank didn't build a brand on craftsmanship. He built it on perception. And when Bacardi bought Grey Goose for $2 billion in 2004, just 7 years after its launch, they weren't buying vodka. They were buying a fantasy. One so effective, it had become indistinguishable from reality. And then, Sidney Frank gave it all away. Not just to the highest bidder, but to causes that shocked even his critics. After selling Grey Goose, Frank donated hundreds of millions to charities, schools, and hospitals. He gave $100 million to Brown University, the largest donation in the school's history at the time. He set up scholarships for underprivileged students. He even helped fund eye surgeries in third-world countries. The man who sold a dream turned around and used that fortune to make other people's dreams come true. But was it redemption? Or just the final chapter in a lifelong performance? Some called him a manipulator. Others, a marketing genius. Some said he changed the game. Others said he just rigged it better than anyone else. But love him or hate him, one thing is clear. Sidney Frank didn't just change the vodka industry. He changed how we think about luxury. He proved that perception is more powerful than product. That you don't need the best ingredients, just the best story. And if you can sell that story, people will buy it, at any price. Sidney Frank sold the world a dream. A vodka that wasn't rare, wasn't better, just more expensive, and wrapped in a story that made us all want to believe. Some people say he was a genius. Others say he was a con man in a tailored suit. Either way, Sidney Frank walked away with billions. And we walked away with a bottle. He didn't make vodka, he made fantasy. And in the end, maybe that's what people were really buying. He's gone now, but the illusion he created, it's still on shelves, still in clubs, still in VIP booths, pretending to be something it's not. What happens next? Maybe someone else builds the next big lie. Maybe it's already out there. Either way, we'll probably keep buying it. I've poured hours of research, writing, and editing into uncovering these hidden worlds of power and protection. If you were shocked by Sidney Frank's story and the world behind Grey Goose, smash that like button and subscribe for more mind-blowing content. Your support keeps this channel going. And trust me, we're just getting started. Thanks for watching.